everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of the GC People Leaders series. In this interview, our guest is Yvette Janse van Rensburg. Yvette is currently the Talent Resourcing Manager at CBRE Global Workplace Solutions, and she's previously had a diverse career in the recruitment industry, working in a number of different contexts across that space. Yvette, welcome. Good to speak with you.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So, you've done the GC Index.
I have, yeah.
Your main energies are polisher and game changer. So, to kick us off a bit, talk to us about how has being a polisher helped you to get where you are now in your career?
I think firstly, what I wanted to say is I found my GC Index profile very accurate. I think at my core, I am genuinely a very solution-orientated, innovative thinker. Mm-hmm. It's that belief that something can be done better or can be done differently. So there's always another way to look at something. But also the ability to, I think, recognize and further develop a creative idea and then delivering on that idea to a very high standard. So that's definitely my polisher profile through and through. Coming back to the sort of career success, I think it's been very much driven by three factors, really. Firstly, and I think probably that the biggest factor is that need for continuous learning. I have a genuine thirst for knowledge, which can sometimes also be a downfall for me, as I want to read and absorb absolutely everything at once, and I just can't decide what's, which article or which piece of research is more important. So it takes a real amount of discipline for me to really remain focused, and a goal setting actually in that sort of area of personal development is what helps me to achieve my outcomes throughout the year. Secondly, I think it's the strive to achieve improvement in everything I do.
Yeah.
Again, it's coming to that belief that things can be done better. And it's not necessarily always underpinned by me coming up with that sort of blue sky thinking, but it's having an open mind to new ideas and possibilities and then building on those. So I very much thrive off of creative thinkers and forward thinking people as well. And then I think lastly, it's probably that pursuit of excellence. I have an extreme abundance of energy centered around achieving excellence, and I will always challenge the tried and tested in pursuit of this. The passion that I bring to every project I'm involved in is conversely, I think, also born out of a place of having really high expectations for myself, and actually those that I work with as well, and those people that come on a journey with me of development. And it translates into absolutely everything I do, whether it's in my personal life or in my professional life. And I think being able to influence and engage people on my ideas and ways of thinking is also what's helped me to achieve this throughout the years.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting actually about when you talk about how you've developed yourself in terms of pursuing that excellence in terms of what you do. And I want to come back to that a little bit later, Yvette, but something I want to pick up on right now is you talked about wanting to go for things that are better, that are forward thinking and more creative. So it sounds as though you're open to other people's ideas as well as your own. So how do you go about perfecting those creative ideas, and how does the way you do that differ between the ideas that you have and the ideas that other people have?
So I think firstly, when it's my own idea, I understand where that idea has come from, how it's been formed, my vision for that idea, and exactly how I want that journey to look like. So the energy I put into that is very much driven by understanding what that looks like. Mm-hmm. When it's someone else's idea, my main role really in the development of that idea is to be a contributor to that person. Because I don't understand where that idea has come from. I don't really know in their minds what the vision looks like and what the journey looks like. So the best that I can do is just enable them and bring the skill sets that I have to the table and help them on that journey to the vision that they want to achieve. And I think that's probably the main difference in how I approach those two.
And that's interesting because, again, we see that combination of your two main energies, which is that polisher and that game changer, working together to drive out the great thinking and ideas of other people and push them towards delivering them in a really, really great way. So yeah. It's fascinating. When have you felt, actually, during the career that you've had, that you've been best able to express those energies? When's the role been really in tune with what you do?
Yeah, it's probably been less about the role, but more about the organization's culture that I've been working in. Definitely one which is safe to fail over fail safe. When you work in an organization that values that creativity, that innovation, bravery, and fosters a really strong emotional culture, that's actually when you really start to see people's curiosity develop, and that's really when the magic happens. So you develop that trust, and suddenly as an employee, so i.e. me, I'd feel a lot more confident in my role, but also knowing and understanding that the strengths I have and the experience I've built up over the years can really add value to that business. Of course, obviously a large part of it's driven by the leaders of the business. I think it's always been comforting for me to work in an environment where that trust and safety trumps the sort of implicit logic in which safe is better than sorry. Yeah. It's about the ability to be able to share ideas and input your thoughts and challenge when you think things can be better, without the fear of it negatively affecting your role, your career, or even the relationships that you have with your colleagues. So it's genuinely, for me, more about the organization than it is about the role itself.
So it sounds like it's a cultural thing with you, is that you where you're able to really express what you do, express those energies, is a culture where you have the safety to challenge ideas that are actually creative, and the ability for those ideas to fail so that you can identify the opportunities to make them better.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So thinking about the reverse of that, when have you been in a situation where what you're being asked to do is being less in tune with your energies? What's that look like for you?
I'm a massive people person. So my entire career has been centered around people and working in teams, whether that's a direct team or just a wider team in general. And I really value the collaboration and camaraderie that comes with working within teams. So I've never particularly enjoyed projects that required me to work in isolation. I can absolutely do it, and I will still perform at exactly the same level, and I will still dedicate the same amount of energy and focus, but you're definitely not going to get the best out of me by putting me in an environment of isolation. So it's definitely that feeling of we're all in this together. We're all driving forward. We're experiencing the successes together. We're failing together as a team, and that is what really excites me.
It's interesting. That's a really powerful impact to make, because perhaps some people might assume that somebody who's very detail focused might actually thrive in being isolated and being allowed to have time to focus on that. But actually, it sounds like for you, it's about being able to work with a lot of people for the greater good, to help them to produce things that are of really great quality.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think it's also it's driven by diverse thinking. No one single person has all the answers to everything. And I think when you surround yourself with people who approach things in very different ways, that's when you really start to see things come together. I think sometimes, or often, people feel that familiarity is where they will find comfort, and they tend to only seek out people who are like them. I actually approach it in a very different way. I always surround myself with people who can complement what I do, but also I know that I complement what they do.
Yeah, for you, in terms of your polishing energy, what's the opportunities that you get in terms of being able to polish things that come from divergent thinking from lots of people as opposed to being isolated?
I think certainly in my current role, it's a fairly obviously large organisation. We have a number of, well, certainly I have a number of portfolio, I would say, of teams that I need to support in terms of their recruitment strategies and their talent and what that looks like for the future. So it's obviously they all have their own ideas as well, and they want to input in what that needs to look like. But I think they also very much look to me as that expert in that field. And we actually then work together to incorporate both ideas and then driving that forward, always keeping a close eye on how things are delivered, encouraging them to do, the best that they can. And I think bringing people in together like that is where you'll get the best out of your team.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I'm just thinking, actually, Yvette, what our listeners might be quite interested to explore an angle on your energies that may not be obvious at first glance. And so one of the things that seems to be true is that you've spent a lot of time and money developing yourself. You mentioned that earlier, that you're pursuing that quality in what you do so that you can drive other people to deliver the best they can deliver. In terms of leadership, so you're leading activity across a wide number of people and departments and contexts in the pursuit of that one key thing, one key outcome. What do you think the unseen elements are of somebody like you, whose energy is around being an architect of quality, but who needs to be their best for other people to be their best? What do you think the unseen elements are that our listeners would be interested in?
I think it's the investment in self, really. That generally people don't see. And it's not like we all sort of stand up and shout about it. It's that time, that the money in improving yourself for the greater good of the organisation. That I think people don't always recognise, especially when it's not a piece of development that's actually driven by the organisation, and it's something in your own personal development that you want to work on. And all of those types of skills all come together to make what you do so much better, and improve who you are as a colleague, as a friend, as a leader. So I think it's sometimes those areas that people don't see that kind of go unrecognised.
And it's interesting. So your industry is recruitment, and you got me thinking, actually, Yvette, in terms of the kind of people that we look for in certain situations. As you know, this series is all about talking about leadership and the different elements, different impacts that people make as leaders. What do you think the lesson is for organisations bringing leaders in who are in charge of improving the quality of what a large number of people do? What would you say the learning points are from your experience of being in that role?
I think, to be honest, in terms of a leader and their responsibility in people's development, I think it's much less of a focus on skill development, but more on a change of mindset. I think that, it certainly helped me a lot over the course of my career. I think that the former part of my career was always focused on developing new skills, learning new things, constantly looking for more and more. But it's actually been a change of mindset that's helped me to realize that, and it's actually been through working with very inspirational leaders over the course of my career who've helped me to be able to focus energy and passion into the right areas, and actually being able to identify when I already have the skills and the abilities and everything and all the knowledge that I need to deliver a piece of work, or actually when do I need to go out and find those. Because I think sometimes we're so, even as leaders, so quick to look outwardly as to, what else can I add? I need another tool in the toolbox, that sometimes they forget to just look inward and actually think, what do I already have that I can use that could make my team even better, or can make myself even better before I go out and add more tools into the toolbox.
And it's an interesting point in terms of thinking about what is there already in your organizations, and maybe one of the points that we can all reflect on from what you said, Yvette, is thinking about what is it that people are doing that's adding value that perhaps we haven't thought about before, that we haven't seen and haven't recognized. Okay, I'm conscious that we're running out of time, but I've got to ask you, you've got some energy in the game changer space. You're in the recruitment profession. You've said already you look ahead to see where things are going as part of developing yourself as a leader. Where do you see things going in the next 5 years? We live in interesting times. Where do you see recruitment going?
It's really interesting. I know there's lots in talk about the evolution of the employee at the moment. And I think certainly, it's fast forwarded a little bit as well. But I think a lot of organizations are already on that journey of realizing that people have different impacts within organizations. They have different strengths. They need to leverage them in different ways. So I think the important question, as opposed to thinking about what the evolution of the employee is in terms of, is it going to be 9 to 5, or is it going to be flexible working? Is it going to be office based, or is it going to be home working? It's thinking about actually what behaviors and skills do we need to start recruiting for now to be able to adapt to such a rapid change in the way that we're going to be working moving forward. And also, do we need to start looking outside of our normal talent pools? Do we need to start realizing that some sectors actually complement each other, and there's lots of transferable skills between the two, and getting away from that herd thinking that I have to go and find someone that is in the same industry that's doing the same job. You'll constantly get the same thinking within an organization if you keep hiring those types of people. So yeah, for me, definitely the areas that I'm looking in is certainly, well, the behaviors. What type of people do we need for 2 years from now, 5 years from now, as the evolution of the employee changes, but also certainly the skills. What's going to be important in 5 years' time versus what's important now.
Okay, great. Yeah, lots of food for thought there. Yvette, thank you so much for taking the time out to do this with us.
Really enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Take care.
You too.